Hello everyone, it is me. I don't know, I got this spontaneous urge to record this video. It might be quick. I usually say I'm gonna try to make videos quick and they end up being like 10 minutes long, which in YouTube minutes is like 7 years or something. But I want to record this because I wanted to detail my philosophical views on things. They're generally pretty straightforward, and I've thought about them for quite a bit. And I know exactly how I think about them when they come up. But it goes like this. Think about it almost as like a form of minimalism, I guess. This is not necessarily a philosophical view about like morals or anything really of the sort like that. It's more just personal lifestyle, philosophical lifestyle, philosophicals. Okay, so I live kind of just by two general ideals. There are things that I want. There are things that I need, right? Everything that is not water, and I guess food and air is what I need. Those are needs. If I want to live as a human being, I am obligated by the fact that I want to live to ingest water, to eat food, and if you want to break down food to like the smallest amounts of like peanuts or something, or the smallest amount of food, ingestibles, comestibles, you can, but ingest water, ingest food, and breathe air. Those are the things I am obligated to do if I want to live. And then there are things that I want, which is, let's assume that I have a house. Things that I would want in that house are decorations, nice paint on the walls or something, a dresser, a bed, pillows, clothing. Generally, it's not looked very well for people to go out naked, but clothes in themselves are not a requirement to live. I can come up with some cool hypothetical of somebody living that lives functionally, that doesn't wear clothes. I can think of that. It doesn't seem that hard to think about. But clothes, and I generally live in between those two states. I don't think decorations are needed for anything. I don't think, and actually it's really funny, the whole reason I thought about this is because I was telling somebody, I don't remember who exactly, but I was telling somebody that a dresser isn't needed for clothes. And they seemed pretty flabbergasted by that, because nobody's really challenged that ideal. Just dressers are a thing that is normal, but it's not needed. You don't need that. You could think of this as like almost like a weird form of like, what is it? I guess minimalism, but what's the term where you go back? Primitivism, something like that. Almost kind of like that, but not to the extremes that I'm thinking. I generally think philosophically I'm a utilitarian, but you could probably get me to go into a threshold deontologist ideal. It's not that hard. To get me to go to into a deontologist ideal. It probably wouldn't be that hard to get me that way. You can say, oh, what is the threshold of this thing? And I would say, well, if one thing, like the whole trolley problem, if two people are gonna die if I pull the trolley and one person's gonna die if I don't pull the trolley, then of course it would be easier not to pull the trolley, because the net happiness is greater. Like, so let's say they both equal to 100%, there's going to be 66% happiness compared to the 33% happiness if I actually pulled it. So that's a good thing. I don't want to get into some weird moral realm, good and bad. I don't want to get into that area, but I would generally think that I'm a utilitarian. But you could probably get me into some threshold deontology if you really tried hard enough. I want to think that if something leads to an act, like if an act now leads to something almost like a butterfly effect, if I move my mouse forward that way, and then for whatever reason a year from now I end up thinking of a way to make mice better, and I patent a patent to make mice for a computer move forward faster or something, that would be a good thing. So if something, even in terms of bad things, if something bad happens, but the end outcome of that bad thing is a good thing, I would generally think that the bad thing happening was a good thing. So at the time, people make these weird ones where it's like about rape. I don't think that's good. I don't think rape is a good thing. But a bad thing. So like, people make the whole, oh, but if you're raped, you get the conception of life. I don't agree with that. But this is what I'm saying. So you could probably get me on some threshold deontology stuff. I've thought about it, but you could probably get me on that. But I generally think of myself more utilitarian in terms of, the utility of items rather than people. So just like you don't need a hamper, just like you don't need a dresser, you can just use a hamper. Or you can just really, if you really wanted to, toss your clothes on the floor. Why don't you want to do that? This is what I'm saying. So dressers are not a requirement to live. Whoops. Dressers are not a requirement to live. You don't need them to exist, nor do you need them to be functional in any sort of way. Is he back now? And that's just the general ideal. If I lived on my own or something, I would probably exercise this pretty well. I live out of 4 boxes and a hamper, and I have a PlayStation, which is, so addressing the PlayStation thing, that is not a requirement, but I do enjoy it. So this is not to say that I don't enjoy things, or that people don't enjoy things. It is enjoyable to be in the presence of things that are like good, and when I say good, I mean that make people happy. And I don't want to be deduced into some, oh, but are people truthful about their happiness? I don't want to be deduced into that. I'm not going to fall into that trap of, oh, well, how do you know if you don't know? That's stupid. But I think generally people do things that they enjoy. So like, there's a guy, his name's Ask Yourself. His name's actually Isaac, but he goes by Ask Yourself on YouTube. He breaks a lot of this down pretty well, but I think I've had these ideals in me for a long time. For really personal example, for a very long time, I didn't wear shoes, went to Walmart without shoes. It was fine. And then eventually I started wearing shoes because of some external factors that happened. But, and then there are things that people do that they perceive as what will keep them alive that aren't really keeping them alive. So let's say you go to, let's say you're dating a boy, let's say you're a guy or what have you, whatever you want to identify as, dating another person, another human being, and that human being, and let's say you're together for like 10 years or something, and then for whatever reason the human being is like, oh, you have to do this in order to do this, this, and this. And what you perceive at that point is like, oh my God, I don't want to lose this person. They're my life, da-da-da-da-da. But functionally, factually, you can live without that person. You can feed yourself without them. You could, and this applies to any general normal human being. I'm not addressing disabled people. They're a whole different facet of this. But if you're a general, regular, functional human being, then yes, you could essentially live out yourself. Or live out yourself. Live You could live. Just like how I can live without like a dresser. And if I ever had like, so silverware generally makes things easier to eat, but it is not a requirement to have them. I've thought about this a lot. A lot of things that people have are generally about the convenience of them. It is not about whether or not it makes anything better. It's just generally about the convenience. Like dressers, you could have underwear in one dresser and shirts in the other, and then you can find the underwear a little bit easier, right? I wouldn't do that because I feel like that would just be, it's a waste of money, because I feel like you can pretty much discern what a piece of underwear is over a shirt. And if you can't, you should probably get help. Just a little bit, I guess. What else did I want to talk about? Like food. So food, you don't need any food that isn't exclusively nutritious. Like fast food's a really good example of this. People enjoy actually, what's really funny is one of my really good friends, probably one of my best friends actually, I have two, Stephen and Colton. My one best friend, Colton, really, it hit me hard when he said this. So a convenience store, you're not exclusively paying for like the items inside the convenience store. You are paying for the convenience of them plus the item. Because convenience stores are only like 2 or 3 minute drives. You go there, get the thing you want, go back. It's usually not even longer than like a 15-minute ordeal if you're trying to be fast. Go there, buy your thing, come back. If you want gas, you can get it, then you drive back. Convenience stores, you are paying for the convenience of them on top of the item that you are buying. And it never dawned upon me. It's called convenience stores, but before he mentioned that, it never really dawned upon me until that point. So that was kind of crazy to me. And so I thought about that a lot since he's told me that. He told me that like a year ago, maybe even longer than that. I know it was quite a long time ago, but I've thought about that quite a bit. And a lot of things are just generally about the convenience. The fast food is fast food. If you feel hungry and you need to ingest something, you can just go to a fast food spot. Most of the time, it's not more than like a 10-15 minute ordeal. Drive-throughs are even faster than that. I've probably even overstated that. It's not even usually like drive-throughs. You sit, if it's a good day, you sit there maybe for 5 minutes, then you get the bag out of the window and you're done. That's it. Yeah, that's just generally how it is. And now people people fall into this convenience, right? A lot of conservatives, not to get political, but I'll state this for the record. There it is. A lot of conservatives have this traditionalist view, right? Where, there are things that are just more convenient to have, like dressers, decorations. While that's not exclusively, they don't serve really any function, right? Outside of making your house look better. That's only because it's traditional. But they don't do anything. It's not like a Christmas tree is gonna help you cook. It's just a tradition. You can make arguments that like computers, so I'm using a computer for my work right now. You can make an argument that computers are a thing that is both convenient and makes things more functional. And I would completely agree with that. Phones too. Phones connect people from across the entire planet. Like so right now I'm taking guitar lessons, from a guy named Giuseppe. He's in Italy. I wake up on Saturdays at 11 o'clock in the morning, but it's 5 o'clock p.m. where he's at, but he's a great guitarist. And he's on the other side of the planet. Without cell phones, or really even without computer-based technology, I would have not been able, one, to even meet this guy, to even have any recollection of who he was, two, never been able to get these lessons from him, because he's a really good guitarist. And I think there's a myriad of other reasons. But yeah, computers, computer-based technology, cell phones are both convenient and provide unbelievable amounts of utility and function in a thing. So you could probably call me a threshold utilitarian, right? So going back to the dresser thing, the dresser provides utility. It can sort things a little easier. And now I'm going to go into some weird capitalist view really quick. I don't think that the utility that a dresser provides is worth the money that you have to pay for a dresser. I would much rather just put my clothes in a hamper, pay $10 for the hamper, and be like, okay, this is underwear, that's a shirt. I need one of them to put on. Okay, I'll put on the shirt, and then I'm done. And that's it. And that's it. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard just to look at a piece of clothing and determine what it is. Same thing with like silverware. Not necessarily the same thing, but I would never pay for multiples of silverware. I would just use the same silverware. Cups too. I would just use the same cup. I would just wash it out. Why have multiple cups? Because the whole reason for multiple cups is because of the convenience of them. I would go a little bit backwards a little bit and say that a cup, let's say you have 5 people in a house, 1 cup per person. Of course, having 1 cup for the entire house wouldn't exactly be a good utility, because if somebody else is using it, they're drinking their drink, you wouldn't want to just snatch their drink out of their hand. You'd probably just, you can even make some weird, even more primitive argument of just buying the jug and drinking out of the jug, and each one gets a jug or whatever. But I would think that you would save more money just by having individual cups while also buying the 1 drink, the 1 jug. And those cups individually would offer more utility than somebody just buying the drinks and having 5 jugs of the same drink. That's more just, I guess maybe it's economic utilitarianism, I guess. I'm not sure what the exact view of that would be, but that's generally how I'd go about, and I practice that in my everyday life. I wear clothes. I will go without showering until I really feel like I really need to. But I know functionally I don't need to shower in order to be, but I have been indoctrinated with the idea that I need to feel clean. So sometimes when I feel really not clean, I get really like paranoid and ugly. I might make a second part to this. This is, like I said, this has gone on way too long. I might make a second part to this. I'll just label this one part 1. If I ever upload a part 2, it'll make sense. All right, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.